Welcome, everyone. A few housekeeping details. Today's webinar is going to be recorded and will be available for viewing on pva.org in the very near future. We do have closed captioning available. If you click the CC button on the bottom in the meeting controls bar at the bottom of your screen to turn it on, that's where you'll find it. Please be on mute with your video off during the presentation. And if you have a question, please type it into the Q&A box so that we can try to address questions at the end of the webinar. And if we go to the next slide, we'll begin. So, greetings to all, whether it's morning or afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to PVA's celebration of National Disability Employment Awareness Month, or NDEAM for short. I'm Susan Prokop with PVA's National Advocacy Program, which strives to represent the interests of PVA's members as people with disabilities, whether that is in access to air travel, or public accommodations, to voting, housing, or employment. The theme for NDEAM 2021 is America's Recovery Powered by Inclusion, and reflects the importance of ensuring that people with disabilities have full access to employment and community involvement during the national recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. PVA believes that veterans with disabilities should be an important part of that recovery. We are pleased to host today's webinar featuring Lauren Lebrano, Director of PVA's Veterans Career Program. Lauren will offer some information about the Veterans Career Program and how it assists veterans with disabilities to find long-term success in reintegrating into their communities and finding some measure of economic stability in their lives. She's also going to share some stories about Veterans Career Program clients, the challenges they confronted when seeking services from the array of federal employment programs available to them, and how she and her staff of counselors helped the veterans overcome these challenges. We appreciate your interest in employment of veterans with disabilities. And now the podium is yours, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Susan. I appreciate this opportunity. We're very fortunate here at the Veterans Career Program to have a strong collaborative relationship with our Government Relations Department. And really appreciate the opportunity to join this presentation today. I should also note that I am joined by several of my colleagues on the Veterans Career Program, including our Associate Director and the newest member of our team, Charles McCaffrey, one of our Senior Vocational Rehabilitation Counselors, Gina Hackenberg, and one of our Vocational Rehabilitation Counselors, Joel Hoots, who's also an Army veteran. I want to give you, in addition to what Susan shared, a little bit of a high-level overview of what we're going to do today. So we're going to start by giving you an overview of the PVA Veterans Career Program and our approach to supporting veterans with disabilities, which is unique in the space, and we're fortunate to be able to offer a unique perspective and approach. We're also going to go over some of the more popular or well-known programs that the government offers, including those offered by the Department of Veterans Affairs, Department of Labor, Social Security Administration, and others, just to highlight some of the breadth of the services, but also discuss some of those gaps. And we're really going to then move on to using a storytelling focus or highlighting some of our interactions with veterans to really explain and demonstrate some of the gaps in services. We'll absolutely have time for Q&A at the end. So again, you can use that chat feature or the Q&A box, my apologies, the Q&A box, and we'll make sure that we touch on those at the end. So first, and I see that a lot of you who have joined us today are familiar with the Veterans Career Program, but I think you'll learn something new today. So in a high-level overview, we provide intense services to service members, their family members, and their caregivers. We want to be as inclusive as possible because it's not unusual to find that a veteran with a disability, sometimes there are other members of his or her lives who need assistance as well, who will benefit from assistance. We really focus on PVA members and veterans with significant disabilities. However, we are very inclusive. We do not turn individuals away. If somebody comes to us and says that they're a veteran, we're going to support them, because sometimes veterans don't recognize their own disability or how it may be presenting as a barrier to moving forward. We don't just focus on paid employment. That is the bulk of individuals that we work with, but we also focus on educational opportunities and volunteer opportunities. Sometimes individuals come to us and they have a new career interest. And in order to pursue that career goal, they're going to benefit from education. So we assist with everything from certificates, online training, to, again, more in-depth support services such as pursuing a bachelor's or a master's degree, and volunteer opportunities. This is unique in this space. However, again, we want to be sure that individuals have the ability to identify new passions, new career goals, new interests, and sometimes that comes through volunteering. Some people just aren't quite ready after an acquired disability to pursue paid employment. So we take a very broad approach and are happy to assist those individuals with a volunteer opportunity if that's the best fit. We provide high-touch, intense one-on-one support. The foundation and our initial approach is always on helping the individual identify passions and goals and interests and building confidence towards pursuing those. And then, of course, we complement that with the traditional employment support services such as resume development, interviewing prep, LinkedIn skills, et cetera. A few ways that we're unique, again, we love those complex cases. If somebody comes to us and says, I've been told by other programs that maybe I'm not employable right now, we're going to work with that individual long term. We do not, we see barriers as a little bit of a challenge. Like, let's figure out what we can do to make sure that those individuals have the opportunity to be successfully engaged. So we're not worried so much about our numbers. We're more worried about ensuring that each individual who comes to us has the opportunity to thrive. This takes us to our love, not like approach. Some programs, you'll hear them highlighting and bragging about potentially 10,000 placements or drafting 10,000 resumes in a year. That's not us. We do focus on resume development, but we also spend significantly more time on the behind the scenes things that go into preparing a veteran for employment or a volunteer opportunity. We do take a personalized approach. So it's not a one-size-fits-all program. This is where that one-on-one support really comes into play, where we can give each individual attention based on his or her needs, not based on expectations that they may have about transitioning out of the military, or I'm going to do A, write a resume, B, apply for jobs, C, interview, because sometimes those things come a little bit out of order. Finally, and this is really key to our services, we're a partner for life. So we have veterans who've come back to us over and over again over the years as they develop new interests, had a new career path or a passion, and we're there for them to support them. Sometimes people go back to work and then they decide, oh, maybe education is right for me so that I can advance in my career. We're going to work with them through that. So again, it's a low bureaucracy, high engagement program that really focuses on each individual client. Here's where we're located. We're nationwide. We have vocational rehabilitation counselors. So for those not familiar, these are individuals who have master's degrees. All of our voc rehab counselors have their CRCs, meaning that they have intense training to do this work, to provide these one-on-one services. They're adept and skilled at working with teams of individuals to overcome any barriers. This could be physical therapists, family members, caregivers, whatever it takes. We're going to be hyper-focused. To complement our voc rehab counselors, we have 2 employment analysts, one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. These individuals are great. They provide job services and career support to those veterans who may not be they may not be experiencing barriers. So in other words, it's not that they don't have a disability, it's just that that disability is no longer or not currently presenting as a barrier. So we're very lucky to have these two individuals on the team as well. Quick high-level overview. The majority of our clients are veterans and transitioning service members. Again, we are hyper-focused on ensuring that family members and caregivers have the support that they need. Our clients tend to trend a little bit older than some of the other programs. About 39% of our clients are 50 years or older. And we know that this is a key line where it does become harder to find employment. The older you are, the more challenging it is. We actually have a lot of Vietnam era veterans that we're working with to help them find financial opportunities so that they can make ends meet. Again, you can see here the 20% PVA members are those with spinal cord injuries or diseases. Another 38% of our veterans do have a significant disability. Some of these have a significant service-connected rating. Some of them have a post-service acquired disability, which falls in line with Paralyzed Veterans of America. The majority of our members do not have their spinal cord injury is not necessarily service-connected. So that's a significant disability that comes post-service. Finally, we are an employer network, an employment network with Social Security Disability Insurance's Ticket to Work program. This is a fantastic program. As an employment network, we're able to provide a lot of support services and significant protections to those veterans who receive SSDI and are interested in exploring going back to work and, successful or substantial gainful activity. So having a full-time job, because of some of the attributes about our program that I previously touched on, a partner for life, a long-term commitment, we really are able to successfully help transition those veterans who do receive SSDI and want to work back into the workplace. It's interesting. So I touched a little bit on how we talk about confidence building and emotional support. Just in April, we started tracking about 40 topic areas where we tend to provide the most services. And we broke these down into 3 categories. We have emotional support, functional support, and external support. We wanted to have a better way of telling our story and understanding the needs of our clients. Based on the data, our top emotional support services that we've seen since April and Friday are dealing with stress and emotional well-being, identifying interests and passions, and addressing current job or position concerns. Because again, we're a partner for life. So once we've placed somebody into a position, we're still going to be there to support them. On the functional side, not surprising, resume development and interview prep are our top 2. Number 3, matters related to Social Security Disability Insurance and the Ticket to Work program. Finally, for external services, the number one thing that we help our clients with related to external programs and services is actually the Department of Veterans Affairs, Veteran Readiness and Employment Services, so VRNE. Second top, housing concerns. We have a lot of clients who do not have stable housing. So we're working with them on finding that path towards stable housing or reassuring them about where they currently are. And again, if somebody doesn't have stable housing, if it's in the back of their mind all the time, it's very hard for them to find meaningful employment. The number 3 thing that we do externally to our program is refer individuals to PVA National Service Officers who do help veterans with their VA claims and receiving the benefits that they've earned. Another program that we actually launched just prior to COVID, we were somewhat fortunate to be ready to go with virtual programming, is our Veterans Career Live sessions. These were formerly called Paid Connect. We knew that traditional hiring fairs were not working for our target audience, for those veterans with a significant disability. These events weren't always accessible. They were in faraway places. Sometimes they were loud. About 57% of veterans with a service-connected disability said they feared discrimination in the hiring practice or process. So these individuals sometimes were more shy about going to some of those networking events. So what we wanted to do was go to them. We wanted to develop a program where we could reach veterans where they are with the career resources they need to be successful. So we launched this program. These are small group, interactive sessions. We offer them usually in the afternoons or evenings to accommodate East Coast and West Coast. They're an hour long. We typically have a presentation that lasts about 20 minutes, followed by ample time for Q&A. We also want them to be informal. We want these to be a safe space for any veteran to ask a question. We launched this in January of 2020. I will tell you in fiscal year 2021, we did exceed all expectations for the program. We offered 97 skill-based sessions that were led by our own voc rehab counselors and employment analysts. And these ranged on topics, again, from resume development to reasonable accommodations or how they deal with job rejection or extreme interview anxiety. So we try to take things several layers deeper into what we think our clients may be facing so that they're ready to go. We also offer 25 partner and employer sessions on everything from storytelling to inviting in employers to talk about not just the job opportunities they have, but also an employer's culture, their diversity and inclusion program, the reasonable accommodations program, and how they address all that, because those are the topics that we feel any job seeker should be aware of as they go to a program. We had, for our 124 total sessions, we had about 3,300 attendees, and we averaged about 27 attendees per session. Feedback has been very high. The interactive nature is great. And the ability to unmute and just ask yourself a question is something that's been valued by members of the veteran community. Again, here you can see our impact for FY21. Not quite up to where we are, but we're really thrilled with how the year ended up, especially in the face of COVID, an economic downturn. Now that I've talked a little bit about our approach, I want to give you a highlight or an overview of some of the more notable programs that you may be familiar with. These programs are excellent. Many of them have wonderful, wonderful outcomes for members of the veterans community, but there are some gaps. And we spend a lot of time working with our clients to help them overcome these gaps. So the first that a lot of people are aware of is the Veterans Readiness and Employment Program that's offered by the VA. They offer 5 great tracks, really encompassing a lot of support services. A couple of qualifications. You do have to have at least a 10% service-connected disability to be eligible for the program. Plus, you do have to apply and be found feasible. So just having a disability doesn't mean that you're going to receive support services from VRNE. We tend to work, again, I highlighted earlier, we work with a lot of veterans right now to help them become more successful on VRNE. We're actually hosting a Veterans Career Live session this afternoon on the VRNE program. Some of you may be familiar with the Compensated Work Therapy Program. This is another VA program that's actually attached to the VA Health Administration side of the house, so not the benefits side of the house. Again, it's a great program. They offer a lot of fantastic services, but there are some gaps. We see inconsistent requirements. Some locations have told us that they require a referral. Some have told us that they don't require a referral. So we need to then reach out and ensure that any client we want to be part of the CWT program, that we're meeting local expectations. You have to be eligible for VA healthcare services. So again, not every veteran has access to VA healthcare services, which is a myth that we see. They have a goal of competitive employment. Again, this is great. We are supportive of this, but sometimes we do find that individuals are going to thrive when they have a volunteer opportunity in the interim. And there are some time-limited support services and location limitations. So some VA medical centers only provide support services to veterans within a 50-mile radius. Some great training programs that you may have heard of. The first is the Veterans Rapid Reemployment Assistance Program. I think I got that right. It's a need for training and education. Again, not all veterans are eligible. It's limited to one-time training. It's one and done. We do see some success with having veterans enter the VRAP program and pursue new opportunities because of that. There's also vet tech. Vet tech is much more limited. It has run out of funding frequently, and then the VA has to request more funding to provide services. It does focus on individuals who are interested in high technology, which there are many individuals. It's a great career path. Despite being the director of IT within my own home, I have no technological skills, and there are a lot of people like me, so it's not great for everybody. And again, one of the challenges that we've seen is that the VA did recently open this up to transitioning veterans, which typically wouldn't be a problem, but because we work with a lot of veterans who've already transitioned, this tends to take away opportunities for those who previously transitioned. Many of you are familiar with the Department of Labor. We work closely with several Department of Labor programs. They offer DevOps, who are trained to work with veterans with disabilities to help them find competitive employment. There are state workforce agencies, American Job Centers. There are veteran priorities for these programs, but as I'm going to highlight later, we have had veterans run into some problems where they aren't being seen as a priority, and they aren't receiving the services to which we believe that they're entitled based on some gaps in services, and again, some metrics that are required to be reported out of these programs. DoD Skill Bridge, this is fantastic opportunity for service members who are transitioning. It is time limited, so you have to be on active duty. And again, to date, we have not seen this as an opportunity for those service members who are attached to Wounded Warrior Battalions, the Army's Wounded Warrior Program, AFW2, or the Navy Safe Harbor, because these individuals do not necessarily have a date that they are exiting the military. And we would be remiss if we did not talk about all of the great programs offered by other veteran service organizations. Really, really good things, similar to the Veterans Career Program. However, some of them are specific, they have specific focus areas. So they may only support post 9/11 veterans. You may have to have a service-connected disability, or they offer things like hiring events, but not intense individual services, or perhaps even a membership requirement. Again, these are things that PVA does not require. So I will note that we do have a smaller team. So we can't, we carry about 850 clients at any given time. So we do have some limitations there. All right, now I want to transition into that last part, or that third part before the Q&A. I want to talk about some of the challenges that we see and then associate these with individual members of our program that we've worked on. So again, disability. There are different programs for those veterans who are service connected or non-service connected. We also see that some people who are service connected tend to see their disability may exacerbate with age, and now they need to go in a different direction or find a new career goal. Your transition date, so some programs are limited and only supporting those veterans who've transitioned within a year or two of leaving the military. And again, there are a lot of programs with varying eligibility, and some veterans do become discouraged as they search through this. I want to introduce you to Edna. Edna is a Marine Corps veteran. She did serve post 9/11. She exited the military and did not have a service-connected rating because she did not file for one. She does have some other disabilities that may or may not be service-connected. They're just not recognized by the VA. Edna came to us with an advanced degree. She had an MBA. She had significant student loans. She was the foster mother to several young children, and she had tried multiple programs without success. So she had repeatedly reached out to government programs, to other VSOs, and just wasn't making forward movement. And again, this is a woman who does have that advanced degree. Some of the things that we did to work with Edna, because of our approach, we explained that she may have to take a step back to move forward. So we looked for, instead of going to some of the government programs, because she did not have a service-connected rating, we went to a local company that was offering Salesforce training, on-the-job paid training program, with the potential to be hired at the end. She was one of 2 people in her course, her class of, I believe, about 30, who was hired at the end. She received several promotions, was on a really good career path, and was ultimately her contract, the contract that she was working on, was awarded to another agency. She came back to us, said, I really want to go, I want to make a run to be a program manager. We helped her with a resume. We helped her again with interviewing skills. And she did receive that promotion with the new organization. So she went from working 3 jobs and barely making ends meet to now thriving in a role where she is a project manager for a program manager for a major government agency or government contractor. We're working on her claims process. And again, our support services continue. Edna is the caregiver for another female veteran, and we provide respite and support services to Edna as she balances both work and being a caregiver. This includes Edna recently attended our Women Veterans Empowerment Retreat in Arizona, where she could learn new skills on how to balance life and other things. This is a great quote from Edna. The only thing I will say is that we did not save Edna's life. Edna saved Edna's life. We showed her doors. We showed her opportunities. She applied those skills. All right, some other additional challenges. So we've covered disability, we've covered transition date, and we've covered the Sea of Goodwill program eligibility. Here we have another challenge, benefits loss. So there are some veterans that we work with who tell us that they are worried about going back to work because they're going to lose their SSDI. They're rated IU, and so they may, be worried about what they're giving up, and instead are focused on that instead of focusing on what they're going to gain by pursuing employment. This is part of the challenge that we see where the process tends to work against them. There are some myths that are shared. I don't know the exact term. I liken it to barracks lawyers' advice, where they hear these rumors and these myths, and they're not quite sure what to do or how to approach that. Highlight this challenge through one of our clients, George. George was a U.S. Marine, is a U.S. Marine. You're always a Marine. He had very unfortunately had a significant injury and a break between when he left active duty and when he joined the Marine Corps Reserves. So he was not attached to the military in any way when he was in a horrific accident and then became paralyzed. He did not have a service-connected claim. This happened within a 48-hour period of leaving the Marine Corps and entering the next phase of his military duty. So he did not have a claim on file and had not started one. He does receive SSDI, and there was concern about leaving, transitioning off of those and what it may mean. Again, unfortunately, George, because of the time it took for him to recover from his injuries, he was no longer eligible for some of the transitioning benefits and services that some of his peers who had recently left the military would have been eligible for. We had started our intense services with George. We helped him with some education and found an initial placement that we thought was going to be a good fit. George did not find it to be a good fit. We had several wonderful conversations with his employers and with him, but ultimately it's his call as to whether or not work is meaningful and whether or not it fits, it's empowering his well-being. I don't want to go into too many details, but I will just say that we recognized and agreed with George that there were better fits. This wasn't just an individual who said, I don't want to do this job. It was an individual who said, I don't think this job is a good fit for my overall well-being. So we said, fine, that we want to make sure that you are empowered. So we went back, started working with him some more, found the second placement. You can see him here at work, enjoying his work from home opportunity. We're still supporting him with education, ongoing education and career development to make sure that he continues to grow and learns new skills. Just a couple of quotes from George. I love this one. Family is always important. He got a job. He was really excited to share that. And again, he was concerned about working and losing those benefits, how it could impact his life. But Gina and our team walked him through very carefully and understood and made sure that he understood the impact of his benefits and what his obligations were as he sought employment. So again, we're part of that safety net. New challenge, whether you're pre 9/11 or post 9/11. So for those of us who may have been working with veterans pre 9/11, it was a different landscape. There were many great programs and services, but things have really changed in recent years. And there are, thousands of new veteran service organizations who are providing new opportunities to empower members of the military and veteran community. So this is a challenge that Otis fell into. So Otis was an Army veteran. He did have a service-connected disability. He had a very successful post-military career. Unfortunately, Otis was injured in 2015 in an accident and needed to take time off from his work and look for, not only take time off to rehabilitate and learn new skills, but also to find new interests and a new path forward. Otis, we worked with Otis carefully on Chapter 31 benefits. We actually ensured that when Otis applied, he had a note from his doctor stating he was able to work. VRNE still did not approve him. So one of the things that we had to do was work with him on to appeal that decision and secure additional training. So these are some of the challenges we continue to see over and over with the VRNE program. Veterans who had a strong application are not found feasible. VRNE determines that they don't think that they're able to return to work. This was the case with Otis, which was directly in opposition of what his medical doctor had said. And that was part of the application that we helped him originally present. We also wanted to make sure, again, that Otis was aware of the benefits available to him. He had had a military career and a long career outside of the military. He was eligible to receive SSDI benefits. He had earned these benefits. There's something that was open to him. He was adamant that he wanted to explore employment opportunities. We do not ever push somebody to pursue employment over their benefits. We always present them in a very clear, direct way what those benefits are and the implications of both. So Otis is now employed. He finished an education program. He is now employed. He's gaining new skills and is really thankful for that opportunity. Again, Otis was one of those who really felt that, again, even though he was eligible to receive benefits, that he wanted to try employment. He says here, my goal was to replenish the system so that someone else who needs school can do that. We do run into a lot of veterans who have this perspective and want to do this, but sometimes they're discouraged to do so by the benefits process. All right, work goal. This is a big one. There are a lot of great programs that offer employment support and services, but sometimes the outcomes, individuals who work in these programs are measured based on the outcomes according to salary, hours worked of their clients, et cetera. So we want to make sure that we are providing veterans with a path forward, no matter if it's part-time or full-time, based on where they are in this process. Meet Sean. Sean served in the Air Force, again, pre-9/11 veteran. He did not have a service connection rating, meaning he was not eligible for a lot of VA programs and services. He had a very successful transition to the civilian workforce. Again, unfortunately injured in 2014, years after he had separated from the military. He has a C4 injury, so it's fairly high. Sean actively tried to re-enter the workforce using multiple programs and services. He went to the American Job Centers and he went to a DVOP. They referred him to state voc rehab. This is his quote, not ours, that he felt that he was not a priority despite there being a priority for veterans. He said, again, that he found that the metrics were working against him. So counselors were graded or judged by the number of hours that they found that a client was working, how quickly they got them into a role, so a 90-day period, and not necessarily looking at the length that they stayed on the job, or how fulfilling Sean or another veteran found that position to be. So, you know, again, we provided very long-term, intense support services. We knew that technological integration was going to be important. Sean uses adaptive equipment, and we wanted to make sure that any employer would recognize this and accommodate that using their software and make sure that it worked. Sean did find employment. Unfortunately, one of the positions was eliminated due to COVID, and we did help him find another position. Sean actually at one point, I think, had a role as providing a customer support type role. He was providing feedback to a government contract on their programs and services, and also has been a speaker talking about his experience and what it's like. We're really excited to note that Sean recently became a board member for the Keystone PVA chapter, so he continues to find new ways to give back and stay involved. But again, he was discouraged at multiple points along the way, or just not made a priority. He would call and reach out without return services. This is, you know, just feedback from Sean. He really was interested on finding a role where he could have some independence and self-confidence, and that's what we're here to do. We want to make sure that they're employed in a position that really meets their expectations. All right, this is the final one, and then I see some questions or some comments in the chat that I haven't gotten to. So again, some of our clients come to us with very significant non-employment challenges or things that could potentially impact their employment. And this can be very difficult. We especially saw this come into play during COVID, where individuals that we were working with who didn't have access to the internet, didn't have home computers, didn't have smartphones, weren't able to do some of the basics. They couldn't apply for unemployment. They could not fill out information to get their stimulus checks. They were isolated, couldn't get groceries, unstable housing. So the support and wraparound services continue to be an important part of the equation. So to protect his identity, I've actually changed the name of this client, but the information I'm going to share about him is real. I just don't want him to be Googleable here. So meet Joe, nickname for GI Joe. Joe is an Army veteran. He served from 80 to 83. He did not have a service-connected disability, or did not file a claim, I should say. He had very significant non-service connected disabilities. He was injured in 2010 and became a PVA member. Finally, in 2020, we were able to get him his service-connected disability. Unfortunately, Joe does have what we identify as some cognitive challenges that we're just not sure where they come from. They've not been diagnosed as far as we can tell, despite some, encouragement and asking people to look into them. This individual does not have a high school or a GED degree and very limited computer skills. Unfortunately, he also has several felony convictions. This is an individual who worked consistently from 2012, once he recovered and rehabilitated from his injury, until COVID. So we did help him with that initial job placement where he worked at a chain restaurant. In 2019, he came to us and said, I can't handle work anymore. It's too hard on my disability. I don't have the stamina to stay with work. It turns out he was being asked to take back-to-back shifts on back-to-back days, which was just stressing his physical abilities too much. We worked with Joe. We worked with a doctor. We were able to get a note and go to his employer and have his employer find the reasonable accommodations of not scheduling him on back-to-back shifts. Again, we also supported him once he did lose his job with securing unemployment benefits. This was took significant work, Because again, this is an individual who did not have the ability necessarily to apply for jobs online or to fill out those applications, and was spending hours and hours and hours on the phone trying to get through to state unemployment, initially to file his claim, and then every Sunday to ensure that it went through. We provide significant background support services, everything from helping him pay some back taxes to helping him monitor his email, find housing, and other support services. You know, related to that unemployment benefit, one of the challenges that this individual unfortunately faced was he did receive a lump sum payment and unemployment insurance benefits. And at one point was called about this because he had more money in his savings account than was allowed to still receive housing vouchers and other benefits. So we had to assist him with navigating that. Typically, this is something that would be offered by the VA and their social workers, but we just found some inconsistent services there. Unfortunately, due to the current employment landscape and what's happening today, we have not been able to help Joe find meaningful employment at this time. There are limited options for him. COVID is still something that we're worried about, making sure that he's out working in a safe environment. But he really wants to work. He likes to work. He likes being around people. He's a social creature. He wants the financial income. He does receive SSDI. He does receive SSI. He is one of those few veterans who receives both, and he does receive limited VA benefits, but it's not enough. He wants to have some extra money in his pocket. So we're trying to work with him again, continuing to work with him to see what might be a good fit. In summary, so again, just highlighted, there are some gaps in services. There's some fantastic programs, but there are some gaps in services. And we want to work collaboratively to have better outcomes and to provide flexibility. Because we don't have time-limited services, there are times when, you know, we can work with a veteran before we push them into another program or help them apply, such as the VA, VRNE. Again, focusing on volunteer education and paid employment means more meaningful long-term outcomes and better client fit overall. Finally, again, collaborative approach. We are willing to work with other programs out there. Happy to have those conversations. So reach out to us. And with that, I am going to see what questions we may have here. I've seen some in the chat and some in the box. So I see one here that was in, and I'm not sure if it was answered about ALS. I see that Gina answered it. We do help veterans with ALS. Again, it doesn't matter to us what your disease or disorder is, or your injury or your disability. We're going to work with you to help you find a meaningful way to stay engaged in your community, whether that's employment or volunteering or educational opportunities. So I see that. And then Ron, great question. I see this here. If a client, sorry, Charles, I know I asked you to be the reader of the questions, but I see this one here, and we don't have too many coming in. If a client needs to go back to school or other training and GI Bill is not available, does PVA provide financial assistance? We do not have a program specifically for that. If we do have a PVA member who is looking for opportunities to go back to school, we're happy to explore that with them, whether it's through a VA benefit or another benefit, or if we're looking for other community resources, going to some of our VSO partners and looking at other employment options. Ron, does that help answer your question? Talk. I see a new one on the Q&A here. All right. Did we miss anything else? Yes, thanks. Thanks, Ron. And thank you for joining us. I look forward to catching up with you soon. And no. Any other questions or concerns? Again, make sure you use those that Q&A box. Not seeing any. Susan, do you want to, do you have any other comments or suggestions or ideas or anything you want to share?
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. Maybe I would be interested in any additional remarks you might have about PVA's experience or with the Social Security Ticket to Work program and how that has worked, and just your all's experience with that.
Absolutely, and I am very fortunate today to have one of my colleagues on, Gina Hackenberg, again, one of our senior vocational rehabilitation counselors. Gina, actually, we're very fortunate to have Gina, who is a very experienced and skilled voc rehab counselor, and she runs point on our Social Security disability, ensuring that our team is meeting expectations. Gina, I don't know if you have anything. You're free to stay behind your camera if you want to unmute and share anything. I will tell you that we find it to be very successful, but we still constantly run into myths around and misinformation or confusion around what the SSDI program is and the protections that are offered to those who are part of work with somebody in an employment network. Gina, do you have anything to share?
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's going really well, and I think every day, every week, we're educating more and more people with significant disabilities about the protections that are in place through Ticket to Work. If you wanted to just talk about it, get your, put your toe in the water and see if it might be something that would work for you or your family, there's no pressure, and we can give you a lot of information. And a lot of people are encouraged and try it. Some of them choose not to continue and just remain on their benefits, and that's their choice. Others have really successful part-time employment. Some have successful full-time, but the key is we work with them side by side through the entire process so that they're never taken by surprise, and they know exactly what's going to happen when to their benefits, if anything at all. So it's a very safe process, and people are excited once they realize they can explore those opportunities.
And Gina, this is Susan. If somebody was on Social Security disability benefits and wanted to explore that, they can just reach out to the Veterans Career Program, I presume.
Yes, exactly. They could email or call us directly. We can put our information in the chat, of course, me specifically, if they'd like to ask. And there's very little red tape. It's actually a pretty smooth and straightforward process.
And again, I think that this is one of the challenges that we see most often, is our individuals who don't understand the opportunities and support services that are provided to them through these employment networks, that there are very skilled vocational rehabilitation counselors and programs that exist to ensure that they have a good path forward, that there's a strong safety net, and that there are things such as trial work periods, there's a rapid reinstatement period. And these are the things that really, again, you're not making I want to go back to work and completely jumping in and by yourself without somebody there to support you process. So if somebody, and there are a lot of veterans who have a non-service connected disability or receiving significant SSDI benefits, but we can help them not only go back to work and have more social outlet and feel more fulfilled, but also pay into Social Security benefits and start to earn more benefits down the road should work not be an option for them. So the most important thing is to talk to an expert and not just talk to your buddy. So if you get some advice from another veteran or your buddy, that's fine. But make sure that you pick up the phone or send an email to a program such as ours so that we can talk to you about, again, the low pressure, non-bureaucratic environment that we have set up, making sure that we're always taking into consideration the client's wishes and desires. It's not our goal to ever push somebody off of benefits just so that we can get a win, because that's not how we're judged by the organization. A placement is good for us, whether it's volunteer, educational, or paid employment, as long as somebody's engaged. We're not in this to push people off of benefits that they're not comfortable or willing to let go of. But you did earn those benefits.
Another question, if we have time, those statistics you cited early in the presentation with so many of the clients being 50 and older, can you amplify on what are some of the particular challenges that those clients face? What are some of the most recurring efforts that the Veterans Career Program has made on their behalf?
That's a great question, Susan. I think because of our flexibility and not being a program that focuses on any specific era or service connected or non-service connected or anything like that, it gives us a lot of flexibility and not only who we support, but how we support them. So a large number of PVA veterans are individuals who served in the military. And again, their spinal cord injury or disorder is not necessarily connected to their time in the military. So like Otis or like Sean, they may have successfully transitioned out of the military, had a successful civilian work career, were entered into the workforce, and then have an accident. And all of a sudden now have a significant disability and are trying to navigate a path forward. They may be older, which is another barrier. So you're over 50, now you have a significant disability, and perhaps you cannot go back to doing the work that you were previously doing because it's just not, the landscape itself isn't accessible. There's not a path forward for you, or perhaps you just don't have that interest. That's where, those layers come into play, where we're going to help you. Again, we talked about identifying passion. That's one of the number one things that we do. Talking about your career, your on-the-job obstacles that you're facing. So figuring out what is it that somebody wants to do, and then taking off the table what they don't want to do. So if they're not interested in, say, customer service, working from home, but that's a job that a lot of programs are going to place these individuals in, well, let's take that off the table and find something else. Or if we do see that as an option, it's going to be a temporary option so that you can gain more services moving forward. So what we want to do is address those layers that you may have of an acquired disability as an older adult, a disability that may become exacerbated with time, having other challenges of not having a lot of VA or government programs available to you, other barriers that may exist, such as again, needing intense support services or not having the confidence. We want to address each one of those layers and not just cut through them and ignore them, to make sure that every step of the way, we're empowering our individuals or our clients with what they need to be successful. And again, this is open to anybody, service connected, non-service connected, PVA member, non-PVA member, or their caregivers. Does that help, Susan?
Yes, no, that's very informative. And I guess one other question, unless there are others in the chat, Social Security is seeking comments right now on some demonstration projects that might be done in the near future. And I've heard your comments on a number of occasions about our clients who would really like to be able to do part-time work and yet run into impediments about that. And I'm just wondering, if Social Security had was able to mount a demonstration project testing out part-time work that would not confront people with loss of benefits, if that sounds like something that might be a useful approach to test.
I think so. And again, Gina, feel free to unmute and weigh in. My perspective is that we want to present people or our clients with a path forward, and we don't want to fear about losing a benefit to be an impediment to that path. We know that employment offers a lot of benefits. There's social benefits from being part of a workplace, from being part of a team, obviously financial benefits. You do make, you have benefits coming in on SSDI, but a lot of individuals can make significantly more than that. They feel empowered, they regain some of their confidence. And so having a step system is really important to that. There are some SSDI ticket to work programs that, because it's a revenue generator and we're essentially a contractor for SSA, which does not mean that we share any information with SSA, but some of these programs do not work with individuals unless they are immediately and directly interested at this point in time in full-time employment, because that's when the employment network gets paid. And that's not our approach. We would rather take a long-term review of, let's get somebody who's not sure about this into part-time work. Let's see how that's going. Are they enjoying it? Is this, do they find that, sitting at home and playing video games wasn't all it was meant to be, or going fishing every day wasn't exactly what they thought, it was going to be 10 years later down the road, and now they want to contribute in a different way. We want to make sure that there's always an option available to them, so we can work with them on part-time employment, and then moving them potentially, if they're ready, and potentially challenging them a little bit. Again, not pushing them off of benefits, but having that conversation of, do you want to consider taking on more hours, taking on a higher salary, or moving into a new role where, again, you're going to have it's actually 10-month trial work period where you're going to receive both your salary and your benefits, and you can see how it goes. So I think, yes, Susan, Gina, I know we're at 3, but Gina, did you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I did. It's not the Ticket to Work program. They do express that the goal is to eventually get off of your benefits and be independent financially. However, it's designed naturally to allow people to try it out up to a year without any impact on their benefits. And it doesn't count against them unless they earn a certain amount. So you can, by the nature of that setup, try part-time employment and see how your stamina is. PVA, we're going to work with a person independent of the Social Security benefit. So we were established prior to that. So my point is, we're not going to push them either way, and they can try it out and stop at any time. So I think in terms of a special program that Social Security might develop, or a pilot program, perhaps raising the level of the amount they could earn, because I see that people that are scared of losing the benefits, they take jobs perhaps under their skill level, or a lower hourly rate, just so they won't go over that level. So if there were to be some type of program supporting part-time employment, maybe they would address that earnings limit, so that they could actually look at employment that utilizes their experience and ability.
Thank you, Gina. And so I think we're up against our time limit today, but I want to thank Lauren and her Veterans Career Program team for a very informative presentation and a lot of good information. And folks watching can see the contact information for Lauren. If anyone has any policy related, government policy related questions, feel free to direct them to me. I will say there was a bill introduced in Congress today to the Social Security 2100, a Sacred Trust Act, which includes eliminating the cash cliff under Social Security disability. So that might be one solution to this problem that many SSDI recipients encounter. So now we just got to get that passed. But anyway, a little commercial for that bill, which PVA has endorsed. But I do thank everyone for participating in this webinar today, and happy National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Thank you, everyone.